The lost ark?
Yeah, the Ark of the Covenant, the chest the Hebrews used to carry around the Ten Commandments.
What do you mean, Commandments? You're talking about the Ten Commandments?
Yes, the actual Ten Commandments, the original stone tablets that Moses brought down out of Mount Horeb and smashed, if you believe in that sort of thing. You guys ever go to Sunday school?
I tell you what, if Indiana Jones is lecturing you about going to Sunday school, might be a good idea to go. Well, my good friends, it's your host, Dr. Judd Burton. Welcome back to long-awaited episode of Sunday School X. And this will be the first in a four-part series on Paneas, otherwise known as Caesarea Philippi, otherwise known as Paneas. Well, around AD 29 or so, in the winter before Jesus' death, he and his disciples visited the region, the city of Caesarea Philippi. Here's part of the remnants of that, the old grotto of Pan, the shrine to Pan. In fact, this was the reason the whole city was founded in the first place, as a shrine to the god Pan, and from which the region and the city derives its original name, Paneas, or the Paneon. Now, this is a seemingly innocuous stop, just at first glance, in Jesus' ministry. But I assure you that there's much, much more going on, many layers to this onion that we're going to peel back, starting today with this first lesson entitled Under the Wings, or Beneath the Wings of the Watchers. Now, I would draw your attention to a few passages that deal directly with this region, and we're going to jump into them right now. And that, of course, beginning with Matthew chapter 16, starting on verse 13. When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he commanded his disciples that they should tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. And also the corresponding passage in Mark chapter 8, beginning in verse 27. Now Jesus and his disciples went out to the towns of Caesarea Philippi, and on the road he asked his disciples, saying to them, "Who do men say that I am?" So that they answered, "John the Baptist, but some say Elijah, and others one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered and said to him, "You are the Christ." Then he strictly warned them that they should not tell anyone about him. And he began to teach that the Son of Man must suffer many things, and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke his word openly. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when he had turned around and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter, saying, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but of the things of man." And there is also a corresponding passage in Luke chapter 9, which we'll flesh out in other lessons. But I wanted to draw your attention for some background text to these two passages in Matthew chapter 16 and Mark chapter 8, respectively. And as you saw on the map, Caesarea Philippi is at the foot of Mount Hermon, and there's some theological importance here on a number of axes. The first, of course, is the admission of Jesus as a Messiah in public. Secondly, the establishment of the church. The third is the transfiguration, which took place on Mount Hermon, which we'll get into in a later episode. And number four, location, 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 location. Paneas is at the foot of this mountain, Mount Hermon, and according to apocryphal sources, particularly First Enoch, this is where the Watchers, that cabal of fallen angels, came and began the so-called Genesis 6 experiment. And again, followers and students of the Bible will understand that passage as the beginning of the pre-flood calamity and the world of the giants. Now, Jesus' visit is very significant. It's not just due to the fact that his cousin John the Baptist had just been beheaded and his disciples were seeking a refuge outside of the jurisdiction of Herod Antipas. There's really much more going on here. It has to do with the setting. It has to do not only with the setting in Jesus' day as this Greco-Roman capital of this classic paganism, but also the older traditions associated with that region, the aforementioned Watchers, the Nephilim, the giants, but also to the east you have the remnants of Bashan, Og's kingdom, and the apostate tribe of Dan had material to the west. And so we'll be fleshing those meanings out in the course of these series. Now, I owe quite a bit to the late Dr. George Knight. He was one of my chief mentors, and he was the Cook Derrick Professor of New Testament and Greek at Hardin-Simmons University, where I got my undergraduate degree for years. And at a young age, he took me under his wing, and many of you who've heard me on radio programs have heard me talk about Dr. Knight before, and how he sort of have taught me the rudiments of archaeology and history. And after 3 years of studying Greek with Dr. Knight, he persuaded me to go on an expedition to Paneas, Caesarea Philippi, and to learn the rudiments of archaeology. And that's what I thought that I was doing. And it turned out to be much, much more than that, particularly as I began to prepare for departure on this particular project, as I began to not only delve into the New Testament material, but also the apocryphal material that dealt with the Watchers and the giants and the Mount Hermon region. So that was the beginning of this deep dive into the world of the Watchers and the giants, and we'll be learning more about that, and I hope that you'll join me on part 2 of this series on Paneas.